Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a moment in history that is just essential, yet it often gets rushed over. We're talking 18th century Bengal and its rise and its really catastrophic fall.
And the story isn't just about, the slow decline of the Mughal Empire. It's much more specific. It's about an administrative revolution. It's about economic genius. And then ultimately one of the most tragic strategic miscalculations in early modern history.
Exactly. We're looking at a period where the huge Mughal Empire was fracturing.
Right.
But in Bengal, this wasn't just chaos. It felt deliberate, a complex, and for a while, a very successful process of creating a virtually independent state.
Led by some extraordinarily ambitious and, frankly, capable governors.
And we should be really clear about what we mean by Bengal here. The scale is massive.
Oh, it's huge. It's not just a small region. The source material defines the Suba, the province, as this economic powerhouse. It includes what we now know as Bengal, but also Bihar and Orissa.
So you're looking at arguably the wealthiest province in the entire subcontinent at that time.
Immense agricultural wealth, highly organized commerce. So our mission today is to take you inside this political laboratory, where two men in particular, Murshid Qali Khan and Alvardi Khan, built this whole structure of practical independence.
We need to get into the architecture, right?
Yeah.
The economy that powered it.
And critically, how that foundation, which was really strong in many ways, was undermined and then just collapsed entirely under Siraj-ud-Dawla.
At the Battle of Plassey, 1757.
The infamous battle, yes.
So we have a kind of shortcut here to understanding 18th century statecraft.
Mhm.
How do you go from being a province to a functional dynastic state? And maybe more importantly, why was it so easily undone?
A great question. And it all begins with the first architect, Murshid Qali Khan.
And this core administrative trick he pulled off.
It's brilliant. He basically declared independence without ever firing a single shot against the emperor in Delhi.
How does that even work?
Yeah. The genius of it is in understanding the Mughal system he was subverting, a system of internal checks and balances. It was designed specifically to prevent the very thing he was about to do.
And that power was split between two cornerstone officials. We had to define these because their merger it's the whole story.
It's the whole story. First, you have the Nazim.
In Nazim. Okay.
He was the executive and the military head. His job was Nizamat-so, administration, law and order, commanding the troops, the guy with the swords.
Okay, the muscle and the second one.
The Diwan. He was the revenue head. He controlled the Diwani, the entire treasury, taxes, the economic machinery, the money man.
And traditionally, these two were appointed separately from Delhi.
Always. They reported to different ministries. The Nazim might be a great general, but he can't pay his soldiers without the Diwan signing off.
And the Diwan can't force people to pay taxes without the Nazim's troops to back him up.
Precisely. It's a deliberate division of power. It ensured neither official could become a king in his own province, especially one so far away from the capital.
And there were other officials watching them too, right? Spies even.
Oh, absolutely. You had the Bakshi, the paymaster, the Kotwal, the police chief, and critically, the Waki novice.
The intelligence guys.
The intelligence reporters, yes, sending regular updates back to the emperor. It was a sophisticated web of mutual supervision.
A system that worked for generations, but by the early 1700s, Delhi's authorities just crumbling.
It's fractured. Succession crises, external pressures, the whole reporting system becomes lax.
And that's the opening Murshid Qali Khan needs.
That's his moment. And what's crucial is his background. He wasn't a military guy. He'd been the Diwan, the money man in Bengal since 1700.
So for 17 years, he's been mastering the economic engine of the province. He knows where every single rupee comes from.
He knows every tax loophole, every landholder. He's not just some outsider.
He's already the most economically powerful man there. And then comes the big shift, 1717.
Yes, 1717. The emperor, Frixiar, grants him what the sources call the unprecedented privilege of holding both jobs.
The Nazim and the Diwan at the same time.
At the same time.
But why? Why would the emperor do that? It seems like an obviously terrible idea from his perspective.
Well, it tells you everything about the chaos in Delhi. Frixiar was a weak ruler. He was fighting his own court battles, and he was desperate for cash.
And Murshid Qali Khan was the one guy who could guarantee a steady flow of it from the richest province.
Exactly. The emperor saw him as a revenue solution, not a long-term political threat. He was a cash cow.
So he essentially buys the merger of the titles by promising to keep the money flowing to a desperate emperor.
That's it. And with that one administrative decree, The entire Mughal system of checks and balances in Bengal is gone, neutralized.
Wow.
He immediately becomes the master of the administration, the law, the taxes, and the army.
All local officials now report to him.
To him. So he consolidates his position, declares himself the hereditary Nawab of Bengal, and then, to really hammer the point home, he moves the capital
From the old Mughal seat in Dhaka.
to a new city he names after himself, Murshidabad.
That is a power move.
It's a huge statement.
And if you're a learner, this is a textbook example of how independence can be won on paper. It wasn't a war.
It was administrative centralization. He used Delhi's own weakness to legitimize his total control. He kept up the fiction of loyalty by sending some tribute.
But in reality, he was the last governor of Bengal ever appointed by the Mughal emperor. He established a dynasty right then and there.
And Delhi could do nothing about it because he had the local army, the local treasury, and he controlled the intelligence reports going back. The paperwork itself sealed the deal.
But holding the titles is one thing. To actually run an independent state, you need a massive guaranteed revenue stream.
And that's where the real revolution begins, the economic one.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So the political architecture is in place. But now Murshid Qali Khan has this huge financial challenge.
Right, the money problem. Under the Mughal system, the provincial government didn't actually control most of the productive land directly.
He needs to turn that land's potential into actual cash in his treasury.
And the core problem was the Jagirdari system. Most of the land was parceled out as jagars.
Those are the land grants given to officers and administrators instead of a cash salary.
Exactly. So the income from that land supported the central Mughal military aristocracy, not the provincial government in Bengal.
So if Bengal is going to be independent, that land has to come back under his direct control.
He needed to claw it back. And he had a two-pronged solution. The first was just ruthless centralization.
He seized back almost all of the most profitable jagirs in Bengal proper.
And he immediately converts them into Khalisa lands, state lands.
Which means the revenue now flows directly to him.
Directly to the state treasury in Murshidabad. This was a massive, high-stakes transfer of wealth. Overnight, the government becomes the direct landlord of the richest farmland in the province.
But that sounds like political suicide. You're taking land away from powerful Mughal military officers. How do you not have a rebellion on your hands?
This is where his political genius comes in. It's a really smart tactical move. He compensates them. He grants them new jagirs, but he deliberately relocates those grants to the less developed, more remote, and as the source calls it, the wilder province of Orissa.
So from a political point of view, you're moving your potential military threats as far away from the capital as possible.
That's exactly it. You're sidelining them. It might have slightly diluted the quality of the local military, but the immediate political benefit was enormous.
He's basically outsourcing his discontent.
He is. He gets the cash flow in Murshidabad, and he decentralizes the old military power structure away from his new capital. It's brilliant.
So with the land secured, he needs a new way to collect the revenue. He replaces the old Jagirdari model with something called the Ijara system.
Or Malz-Amini. This was the engine of the new state, a revenue farming contract system.
Revenue farming. So you auction off the right to collect taxes.
Essentially, yes. For specific administrative zones, Ijaradars, the contractors, would bid for the right.
And how did that guarantee the state its money so effectively?
The key was the upfront capital.
Right.
Before a contractor could even start collecting, they had to give the state a hefty security bond.
Ah, so the state gets its money guaranteed right at the start.
Right at the start. Sometimes before a single rupee was even collected from the peasants. The Ijaradar then took on all the risk of actually getting the money from the farmers.
So the pressure's just passed down the chain. The state always gets paid.
Always. And the sources note something interesting here. Murshid Qali Khan actively preferred Hindus for these powerful new roles.
Why is that significant?
It served a clear political purpose. He was trying to destroy the old hereditary zamindars, the old landowners who often had loyalties back to the Mughal center.
By creating a new class of administrators.
A new class that was entirely dependent on him, on his regime. They weren't merchants or bankers. Their loyalty was to Murshidabad, not Delhi.
And this has huge social consequences. The old aristocracy just withers away, and the descendants of these tax farmers become a new landed aristocracy.
A completely new power structure, but the system itself, as effective as it was incredibly harsh.
The sources say his collection methods were uncompromising to the extent of being ruthless.
Absolutely. If a contractor or a zamindar missed a deadline, they faced severe public humiliation. Their assets were seized. There was zero tolerance for delay.
And that constant unforgiving demand for cash on time, that creates a massive, desperate need for credit.
Exactly. And this is the moment the moneylenders go from being, private businessmen to being the essential backbone of the state.
This is the birth of the official capitalist class.
It is. The contractors needed huge sums for their security bonds. They needed cash flow before the harvest came in. And the only people who could provide capital on that scale were the big banking houses.
And the biggest of them all, by far, was the legendary house of the Jagat Seths.
Their rise is a direct result of these reforms. They weren't just offering loans, they became the indispensable financial guarantors for the biggest zamindars. Their wealth became, well, staggering.
We're talking about bankers who were richer than many European kingdoms at the time.
Easily. And their power went way beyond just economics. They became political actors.
Because the state relied on them for vital functions.
Think about it. They took on the responsibility for massive financial transfers, including the annual tribute that the Nawab still sent to Delhi to keep up appearances.
Wait, hold on. So the emperor's lifeline from his richest province wasn't being sent by the Nawab's government treasury.
No, it was guaranteed by a private banking family who issued bills of exchange.
So the Jagat Seths are the ones physically ensuring the money gets to Delhi.
Or, more often, they're issuing hundis, local bills of exchange that were recognized across India. This gave them immense political sway with the Nawab.
Because they were the mechanism that maintained the fiction of Mughal sovereignty, which in turn legitimized the Nawab's own rule.
By 1717, the only real functional link between Bengal and Delhi was this irregular financial transfer facilitated by private capital.
So the independent state was now being fiscally managed by a hyper-powerful private elite.
An elite that he created.
Murshid Quali Khan dies in 1727. He's built this powerful, centralized, and financially self-reliant state.
The rule passes to his son-in-law and then briefly to his grandson. But the new dynasty faces its first real internal crisis.
And this is where we see the financiers really flex their political muscle.
That crisis comes in 1740 with a man named Alivardi Khan. He was the deputy governor of Bihar. He was ambitious, a capable military man.
And crucially, politically connected. He saw the instability under the current Nawab as his big chance.
He did. So he rises up, deposes, and kills the Nawab, Sarfaraz Khan, at the Battle of Garia.
And this wasn't just a military win. It was a coup financed by the very banking elite we were just talking about.
Exactly. The powerful Jagat Seths provided the war chest. They gave Alivardi Khan the money he needed to raise his army.
Which confirms this devastating shift in power. It's not about an imperial decree from Delhi anymore.
No, it's about local financial consent and local military might. The Jagat Seths proved they could install a Nawab as easily as they could finance a tax contract.
So when Alivardi Khan takes power in 1740, the whole fiction of loyalty to Delhi is pretty much over.
It is. His reign marks a virtual break with the Mughals. He kept up some of the appearances, but he stopped paying the annual tribute altogether.
He knew Delhi was just too weak to do anything about it.
And he knew Bengal needed every resource it had, because the golden age of peace and consolidation was over.
His entire 15-year rule was just consumed by fighting off major external threats.
A huge strain on the government that had only just found its financial feet. The state was rich, but it had to fight constantly for its survival.
The biggest threat being the Marathas from the west.
The Marathas and also Afghan rebels. But the Marathas were relentless.
These weren't just single raids, were they? The sources say they struck 3-4 times between 1742 and 1751.
They were systematic invasions aimed at extracting wealth. They targeted Bihar, Orissa, and they even got close to Murshidabad, the capital itself.
The economic devastation must have been immense.
It was. Trade routes were cut, farming was halted. The wealth that Murshid Quali Khan had so painstakingly built up was constantly under threat.
So for 15 years, it's basically a wartime economy. Alivardi Khan had to find a way to stop the bleeding.
He did eventually in 1751, but the peace terms were a devastating blow to Bengal.
What did he have to agree to?
2 things. First, he had to agree to pay the Marathas an annual chauth.
Which is basically a massive protection tax.
Exactly. It's a symbolic admission that another power has a claim on your resources. It really undercut the Nawab's image as the supreme authority.
And the second thing?
Even more damaging. He permanently ceded the entire province of Orissa to the Marathas.
Wow. That's a huge piece of territory revenue gone forever.
just to secure peace on his flank. And on top of that, he also had to fight off a formidable rebellion from his own Afghan general, Mustafa Khan.
So Alivardi Khan was this essential military gatekeeper. He held the state together through sheer force of will until his death in 1756.
And he left this incredibly complex and pressured state to his young grandson, Siraj-ud-Dowlah.
Before we get to the collapse, though, we need to really appreciate what these first two Nawabs built, because the sources are very clear about their strengths.
Yes, and we need to measure those strengths against the single fatal weakness they possessed.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the sources really praise Murshid Quali Khan and Alivardi Khan. They call them men of exceptional quality.
And they were. They provided long periods of peace when they weren't fighting the Marathas and orderly, centralized administration. They were real institution builders.
They set up police stations, the thanas and chowkis.
Right, ensuring law and order, which is essential for trade to flourish. And they actively promoted trade and industry.
And their politics were remarkably inclusive for the time. No religious discrimination in public jobs.
They relied heavily on capable Hindu administrators and financiers, which helped stabilize the regime by just broadening their talent pool.
And here's where they showed some real strategic insight, especially with the Europeans.
They kept them on a very tight leash. Strict control over the foreign trading companies, the English and the French. They checked abuses in customs, stopped private trade by their own officials.
And Alivardi Khan, specifically, he showed amazing foresight, didn't he? He rightly did not allow the English and French to build fortifications.
Yes. Fort William in Calcutta, the French settlement at Chandernagore, he saw the physical, traditional military threat.
A fort means troops. Troops mean potential aggression. He shut that down for his entire reign.
He did.
Yep.
But, and here's the historical irony, the ultimate strategic failure.
Despite all that brilliance.
The sources say they were short-sighted and ignorant in their final assessment of the English East India Company.
They fundamentally misjudged what it was.
Completely. They saw a trading body, a very big, very sophisticated group of merchants whose goal was profit.
They missed that the company was actually the representative of most aggressive colonial force of the time.
They just couldn't see it.
Why not? Was it arrogance? A failure of intelligence?
I think it was a lack of contact with the rest of the world. They were in a regional bubble, geographically and intellectually. Their focus was on the immediate threats.
The Marathas on their border, the Afghans inside it.
Those were the existential military challenges they could see and understand. The Europeans, they just seemed like a commercial problem, annoying but manageable.
They didn't know the playbook.
Exactly. They were ignorant of the global context. They had no idea that these same European companies had already, as the source says, devoured huge parts of Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America.
Using this exact formula, economic penetration, then political manipulation, then military conquest.
They failed to grasp the political sovereign nature of a chartered company that had its own army and its own imperial ambitions.
So they stopped the physical walls from being built, but they didn't see the invisible blueprint of colonialism being laid down right inside their own financial system.
A structural weakness that proved absolutely fatal when Siraj-ud-Dowlah takes the throne in 1756.
And he inherits this rich, powerful state, but one that's internally fractured and financially manipulated.
And his succession is immediately challenged. And that instability is the opening the English have been waiting for.
The challenges come from his own family, right? His aunt, Gassetti Begum, his cousin, Shakar Jung.
Which just fuels this intense court factionalism from day one. You have a young, volatile Nawab facing internal rebellion. It's the perfect storm.
And this brings the financial elite, the Jagat Saths, into open opposition. They prioritize stability and profit over loyalty to this new, unpredictable ruler.
And look who forms the core of this anti-Siraj group.
The people with the most to lose. The Jagat Saths, the financier Umashand, and the deadliest of all, his own army chief, Mir Jafar.
So you have this perfect collision, the financial backbone of the state, its top general, and a foreign colonial power all lined against the ruler.
And the English just pour fuel on that fire.
They exploit the fracture. The flashpoint is the fortifications.
The English start strengthening Fort William in Calcutta, mounting guns, because they're expecting another war with France.
And they're directly defying the established policy of the Nawabs. Siraj, trying to assert his authority, objects.
But unlike his grandfather, his position is so weak internally that his objection just escalates immediately into an acrimonious military conflict.
He actually has some initial success. He captures Calcutta. But the English quickly send reinforcements from Madras under Robert Clive.
And they retake the city. And this seems to be the moment the English realize something.
They realize they don't have to defeat Bengal's army.
They just have to buy its leadership.
The infamous Plassey conspiracy. Clive opens secret negotiations with the disaffected nobles, Mir Jafar, the Jagat Seths.
The plan isn't a battle. It's a planned political assassination disguised as a battle.
They join hands with the English to remove Siraj. Mir Jafar is promised the throne in exchange for simply making sure the Nawab's army doesn't fight.
Which makes the Battle of Plassey in 1757 a complete farce, militarily.
It's a betrayal, bought and paid for by the political manipulation of the very financial class the Nawabs themselves had created.
We have to emphasize this. The source material is clear. The British victory was decided, more than the might of the English, by the treachery of the Nawab's confidants.
Mir Jafar, who commanded the largest part of the army, just stood by and refused to fight. Siraj was defeated, captured, and executed soon after.
And that battle didn't just swap one Nawab for a puppet. It sealed the fate of Bengal.
It was the start of the new phase of companies' rule in India, direct territorial and financial control. The architecture of independence, built so carefully over 50 years, was undone in less than one.
The irony is just, it's staggering.
It's profound. Murshid Quali Khan creates this state by consolidating power. He funds it with a system that creates the immense wealth of the Jagat Seths. Alivardi Khan defends it heroically.
And in the end, that very wealth, once it was converted into political leverage, became the weapon used to destroy the state itself.
So, what does this all mean for you, the learner? This deep dive shows that state failure often doesn't come from being weak externally, but from being structurally compromised on the inside.
The architects of independence, they solved the military and administrative problems of their day.
But they failed to solve the fundamental political problem of how to control the powerful financial elite that they themselves had empowered.
Their story is just this cautionary tale about strategic naivete. The Nawabs stopped the English from building visible physical forts. They saw that direct traditional threat.
But they completely missed the political and economic blueprint of colonialism, a threat that used commercial interest, financial leverage, and engineered a betrayal, a threat that had already consumed other continents.
And that raises a really important question for us to think about, one that still echoes today. What level of global awareness does a stable government need to recognize when a powerful economic partner starts to transform step by step into an existential geopolitical adversary?
And when that adversary funds its operations through the betrayal of your own country's internal elite, how can any state truly defend its sovereignty?
That's something to mull over long after this deep dive is complete.